I'd like to give you an example of your mapping project, a way in which you could do your mapping project. Notice how I first describe a pattern and then I describe the process that creates that pattern. So here we have our local map of Northern California. I've highlighted this area. Notice the pattern. This is a map of precipitation. The darker colors or the greener colors, bluer mean more precipitation. The lighter yellowish, orange, and red mean less precipitation. So in this map, we can see that precipitation in Northern California ranges from kind of high precipitation towards the coast, and as you move to the east, precipitation decreases. Okay, so that is our pattern. What is the process? Well, here we have a range of mountains, the coastal mountain range. And basically, as winds move from west to east, they go over the mountain, and we have orographic lifting of air. The air cools, uh, the air condenses as it moves up the mountain, and precipitation falls on the windward side of the mountain, leaving the leeward side of the mountains drier. This process or this phenomenon is also called the rain shadow effect. Moving on to the regional map. Here we have a map of the entire state of California. And when we look at our pattern, we notice two things. One is that precipitation tends to be higher in the northern part of the state, drier in the southern part of the state, and precipitation tends to be higher along the coast and drier towards the interior. With one exception, we see this band of high precipitation in this area. So what explains this pattern? So the process that we will refer to now first is pressure belts. The southern part of the state is influenced by the subtropical highs. So those are high pressure zones, and whenever you have high pressure, there is very little precipitation. This area is where you also have the great deserts of the world. The northern part of the state, on the other hand, is influenced by the subpolar lows. So low pressure means precipitation. So that explains the north-south difference. What about the interior versus the coast? Well, along the coast, we get more um, precipitation because of evaporation from the ocean. So the farther you are, the drier it's going to be, with the exception of this belt of precipitation. And what we have here are the Sierra Nevada mountains. Again, here we have orographic precipitation. These are very high mountains. So air rises, cools, and condenses on the windward side, and we have again the rain shadow effect on the backside or the leeward side of these mountains. Finally, we have our continental map, and here we have a map of the entire United States, so that's good enough for our continental map. And the main pattern that we see here is that the western side of the state is drier, with, of course, a few exceptions. And the eastern side of, not the state, but the country is wetter. Okay, so what is the process behind this pattern? Well, basically here we can refer to ocean currents. Oceans move in gyres, which are big circular motions. And in the eastern side of continents, not only North America, but every continent, on the eastern side of continent, we get ocean currents that come from the tropics. So here on the eastern side of the US, we have water that is coming from the Caribbean Ocean or sea, and it moves from south to north, bringing warm water along the coast. Well, that warm water evaporates readily and creates moisture conditions. This is one of the reasons the eastern side of the country sees more storms and hurricanes because there's more moisture in the air due to the presence of the warm water on the eastern side of the continent. On the western side of the continent, on the other hand, the gyre turns the other way, so that we have ocean currents coming from the north, coming off of Canada and Alaska, bringing cold water to our coast, as any of you can probably verify by going to the ocean. This cold water does not evaporate readily, so the air above it and around it is drier, and that leads to drier conditions on the western side of the continent. So that's the explanation, or the one simple way that I can see that you can approach your project. First, pick a layer such as precipitation like I did here, then look at patterns at 3 different scales using the same layer, and explain the physical processes that create those patterns. I hope this helps.